Hey guys, Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. Welcome to Double Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. There would certainly have appeared to be plenty to discuss today without anything new on the horizon. However, Mike Tomlin went way off the rails today at the press conference. That's not a criticism, as you'll hear here today. But he said stuff that he has never before said. And I have a feeling that it was not by accident. I have a feeling that something occurred yesterday to set him off in this regard. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, let's first roll back through yesterday. The Steelers beating the Browns 23-9. The Steelers doing it their way. The Steelers getting the job done right, specific to that opponent. If you're looking at the standings and say that other team stinks, you might end up being correct. But in the moment, that was one of, if not the top defenses in the NFL. And the Steelers put up a couple of touchdowns and 3 field goals on them. To me, the offense wins that game. So you think that's going to be the thing that gets talked about today in the Mike Tomlin press conference, which is pushed up a day because of the short week. Steelers versus the Cincinnati Bengals out there on a Thursday. Instead, the subject arises of Joe Flacco being in Cincinnati and how he got to Cincinnati at midseason with Cleveland making what I think everybody acknowledged at the time was a bizarre trade, not just because it's in the division. Teams make trades in the division, especially when they're out of it, when they don't feel like there's any, competitive advantage or disadvantage to doing so. It's still kind of frowned upon, but it's not the worst whenever you're in last place and the other guys are in last place too. But when it's like this and it happens that quickly and it happens right before that team faces the Steelers or shortly before that team faces the Steelers, here is what Mike Tomlin had to say on this subject today.
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Yeah, see that. It's that the Browns themselves, Andrew Berry's team, came into Pittsburgh yesterday with only Dylan Gabriel as an option at quarterback. Think about that for a second. Kevin Stefanski's not going to play Deion's kid. There's just no chance. I don't know how much more obvious that can be. And they shorthand themselves. They cut off their own, minimize their own chances of winning that football game, and at least theoretically, maybe saving the dude's job. I don't know. I also don't care what happens in the Cleveland hierarchy or who's got a higher level of respect from their owners, whether it's the GM or whether it's Stefanski. Don't know, don't care. But as it applies to the Steelers, they have to face Joe Flacco. And if you'll recall, some of Tomlin's wording on one of those mic'd up sessions that he had on film, it was playing against the Colts out in Indianapolis last year. And he was telling his players, and not joking about it, to keep Anthony Richardson vertical, keep him vertical, because he didn't want Flacco coming into the game. He knew the Colts were starting the wrong quarterback. And he was happy to face the wrong quarterback over facing Flacco. Why? Because he's faced Flacco. He has immense respect for Flacco and should. We're going to talk about this with Chris Halleck when we come back. A really, really interesting kind of day. And we're also going to go over some of your thoughts, since this is the Monday after the game, on the game itself and maybe even have a little bit of time to discuss Steelers versus Bengals this week right when we come back.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Welcome back. Hey, Chris, the Bengals week is finally here. The short week is finally here. It's time to check out the latest odds, futures, and win totals on the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you think the Steelers are going to hang on and take the AFC North, there are odds for that sort of thing. Lock in your bets today. Whatever your game, the FanDuel Sportsbook delivers the latest lines, futures, and specials so that you can join in on all of the action. Chris, you were over there for Tomlin's press conference. How, there's a certain rhythm to these things, and they don't tend to surprise you. How, what the heck was that? Did that feel when it happened?
Yeah. It doesn't happen very often.
By name? By name?
Yeah. It's, I can't think of a time, at least which I've been on the beat, in which Tomlin's taken a shot like that. Listen, I get it, and maybe I don't think, knowing the way Tomlin ticks and the way he operates, I don't take that as some sort of he's just trying to take another dig at the Browns, trying to pour salt on the wound or anything like that. I really think that Tomlin just really has that much respect for division rivalries, especially within the AFC North. And when one team helps out another, it's one thing for a player like Patrick Queen to play for the Ravens, become a free agent, and then decide to sign somewhere else because he's a free agent and he has that right to make a decision to go somewhere else. Or vice versa. Like when Rod Woodson, we're going way back, ended up playing for the Ravens after having a great career with the Steelers, Hall of Fame career with the Steelers. But it's different when the Bengals are obviously reeling. They just lost their franchise quarterback, one of the three best quarterbacks, if not three, then four best quarterbacks in the NFL. And they're scrambling. They're trying to find anybody. And the Browns are like, here we go. We'll just do a late day 3 swap and boom, here's a nice 18-year veteran quarterback. I think that's probably the thing that irks Tomlin more than anything, is that it's one AFC North team literally helping another one.
Well, also helping the other one, and this might be taking it too far, but I don't know if it does or not. You never know what kind of weirdness happens with some of these teams that don't know what the hell they're doing, unless you cover the Pirates across the river, and then you can at least maybe associate it. But I'll tell you this: the Pirates also make trades within the division, and any time that their utterly spectacularly incompetent general manager Ben Cherington is asked about this, his response is to kind of look at you like with a tilted head, like that didn't show up in my analytics report. I'm not going to give Andrew Berry enough credit, or I just don't know anything about him to suggest that he's, ice cold because of analytics or whatever. I'm sure he's going to have to speak to this today. I mean, that's a call out and a half.
I mean, Stefanski was asked about it, and he just flat out said, I'm not going to comment on that.
No, because this guy's killing Stefanski.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where I start getting a little conspiratorial, right away. Tomlin has at least two that we see separate conversations with Stefanski yesterday on the field. There's one before the game, and then there's the other, the obligatory head coach hug afterward. And there's some words exchanged, but there's been no secret of the mutual admiration that's there. Tomlin has a lot of respect for Stefanski, and I think he should. I think Stefanski's a good football coach.
Yeah.
Who is dealt a terrible hand by being stuck with that awful franchise for that apparently awful GM and awful ownership.
I mean, well, this is the GM that made the Deshaun Watson trade, so let's put that in. I mean, Barry's been the GM for Cleveland since 2020, and you look really good when Baker Mayfield goes into Pittsburgh and wins a playoff game. And
Not
then
so
you
good
get
when
rid
he's
of,
starring in Tampa.
and then you get rid of that quarterback in favor of Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson's, there are already enough jokes that I don't need to say anymore on here about that entire situation. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield is making fantasy owners like myself very, very happy because he's just flat out balling in Tampa Bay. So yeah, there are questionable decisions already from that regime, sure, but it's still something else entirely when the longest tenured coach in the NFL, who just also happens to be in the same division, is gonna take a shot, like an open shot. It is very, very interesting for sure. But I really think it's just about protecting the sanctity of division rivalry, and that's not what that is.
No, it's not, and especially and doubly so when it comes to the NFL. The divisional games are weighted so heavily. It's such a big percentage of your schedule. The familiarity is there. The intensity is there. And to just sit there and watch, wait a second, who helped the Bengals? Why? Even if you look at the standings, the Browns are one game back of the Bengals.
Exactly. I mean, do the Bengals have a chance against the Packers if Jake Browning goes out there and he's the quarterback after playing the way that he did against the Lions?
Oh, he was horrible.
Does Jake Browning have a chance to beat the Steelers on Thursday? And we're
I don't know that he'd survive that game.
But we're going to talk about this. But the Steelers have never won an AFC North Thursday night game on the road ever. Like predating Mike Tomlin, never. But if Jake Browning was the quarterback, I'd be betting decent money on my FanDuel Sportsbook that the Steelers would be winning this football game. But if Joe Flacco's the quarterback, that changes things. It's not a good trade at all. You got a fifth-round pick. You turned a sixth-rounder into a fifth-rounder and gave away a quarterback.
But even that, this is way more. But see, here's the thing: when Tomlin does stuff like this, which again this specifically is unprecedented.
Yeah.
Okay. But when he'll make a statement or say something that's unusual, whatever that happens to be, it tends to come with a purpose.
Oh yeah.
It tends to be aimed at whatever their next game would be. This is none of those things. This isn't that at all. This is something that got triggered by something that he heard just yesterday, or just by hearing Flacco's name, because Flacco's name would have to come up today, and he just let it fly. I guarantee you this was not prepared. This was not something that he walked into that room thinking he's going to do. And he just lets it go. And he doesn't care who catches the strays or on what day. Because they don't, it's not like he would have been trying to do something to tick off the Browns on Browns week or anything. This doesn't matter. This was aimed at this opponent, and this was aimed at something. Listen, the world's most ardent Tomlin critic, and this is coming from somebody who called for him to be fired after last season. The world's most ardent Tomlin critic cannot take away that the man is competitive as hell.
Oh, God, yeah.
And he can't fathom what this is. So, again, I'm going to draw the Pirates parallel for you with when we ask questions of the Pirates, whether it's about trading in the division or anything, you're talking with people, Chris, who are non-competitive. They're not competitive in life. They're not competitive in work. They really don't give a crap if they win. And it's not just the usual narratives, Bob Nutting's running off with all the cash and all that other stuff. They're just not competitive. And the Browns, by doing something like this, they embarrass themselves even more than they would in a normal Browns kind of way. And there's no way that doesn't permeate through the whole organization. There's no way that doesn't affect everybody, because they're all in that room thinking the same thing. Imagine the players going, wait a second. They did what? Why?
Yeah.
So who's our backup quarterback now? wait, they're not going to play Deion's kid. You know that. Stefanski's going to put himself out there before he puts Deion's kid out there. So you have, it just doesn't make sense, Chris.
It doesn't make sense. And maybe that's the reason why. No, I don't think that this was a premeditated thing. I don't, the two premeditated thing are like talks and like Pittsburgh sports that I can remember are the Michelle Therrien rant from back in the day. And then
they soft.
Yeah. And then the Mike Tomlin, there isn't a big enough blank check. That because he knew he was going to be asked about that. The USC
the college
rumors,
opening, yeah.
He knew he was going to be asked about it, and I guarantee you he had an answer ready to go for that.
Why aren't you asking Andy Reid this question?
Yeah.
Which is a great way to say that. Baby Bear asks, why do some reporters try to tick off Mike Tomlin? He was upset today. I don't know. What would be the gain in that?
No, I mean. I don't think anybody. No, I'm okay. I'm not going to speak for other reporters. That's not my job. But
it's not the job.
From my perspective and knowing how to go about this job, I don't think. But I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I don't ever go into that trying to piss off anybody. I'm literally, if I ask a question, I'm trying to get an answer. The question I asked today was about the situations on short weeks because this team is 9-12 in games in which they played a game 4 days previously, and that includes a 3-7 record against the AFC North and 2-8 on the road. And so that's why I'm like, hey, what are the specific challenges about playing on short weeks? And so that, but then there's a follow up and it's asked in a different way, and he kind of has a different kind of remark to that. And yeah, he did say something snarky as he was walking away from the podium, and I don't think it was turned off, like the stream was turned off before he
doesn't care about that. Whether or not the stream is off, that's like the we do not care and the whatever else. And Buffalo, when he just stormed out of there, had a question about his coaching future. That stuff doesn't do anything for him. What we think about him has zero impact on his life, just to be totally clear on that.
Yeah, he does not care.
And he can do his job how he wants to. We'll do our job how we want to. But the idea of deliberately ticking him off isn't the case here. What he might see as being that, and I've told you guys this many, many times in many forms, he hates connecting seasons. He doesn't like it. Yes, he longer term trends. When you say something like, Mike, it's been 5 years since you've ... He hates it. Every season is its own journey. Every season. Now, to me, that's a convenient way to shield yourself from past or recent failures. Okay, I'd love to say that too. If I just struck out Game 7 of the World Series, the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth, I'm moving on the next season, just like that. That last season was last season. I'm here to talk about this journey with these men, not the ones when I was out there striking out. So don't, that's not him taking stuff. He thinks reporters should understand that and not ask about that. Okay.
Well, and that's why it's up to, and that's why it's up to the reporter.
It's a fair question. Yeah, it's a fair question.
But I think that's why it's up to the reporter. And again, I'm only speaking for myself, and so I'll explain like my rationale behind it because I'm the one representing this outlet in that room. And so I go about it and like if I ask him, if I say, "Hey, Mike, you're 9-12 in these type of games," I know that's the answer he's going to give. I'm only focused on 2025. So that's why you have to find, at least from my perspective and in my experience, you have to find a way to ask that question so that you get an actual answer to the question that you want. You have to word it in a way. So that's why I worded it in a way in which you're saying like, okay, well, what are the specific challenges during these short weeks that might make it more difficult? Because, and he gave I won't say a non-answer, but he gave a longer winded answer to that question rather than, okay, you've been struggling in recent years. And he just gives the flat out, I'm only focused on 2025. I've had my ASS kicked in a number of ways over 19 years. That's why he kind of gives that answer to that question. So I can only speak for the way and knowing the way. I think it's up to the reporter to understand the coach and how he operates, because it was completely different whenever I've covered different teams. I had a manager in Texas when I was covering the Texas Rangers that I could ask him almost anything and he'd give me a book on that answer just because that's how transparent he was. That's not Mike Tomlin. So you have to find ways to get an answer that you're looking for.
Carol says here that at least the game is on Amazon. This is Thursday night, so I can watch my normal Thursday night shows and hope for the best. I did not know that was an Amazon game. It doesn't affect anybody in Pittsburgh.
It does not.
Or in the Pittsburgh TV market, because those games get shown invariably on one of the local stations here. Pyro Review asks, how's the field going to be in Thursday? Is that where we're going today? Is that what we're doing? Is the field? It was a really, really, really well played game by the Steelers yesterday. And I can imagine the various, whatever, I'm going to get myself in trouble here, as if I don't all the time anyway. But like the talk radio crowd, because they don't watch football, don't understand football or whatever else, you're spending the day talking about the field. Is that happening today? Anybody want to tell me? Yeah. That's, there was a heck of a football game yesterday with a lot of fun stuff to go over. And as Blitzberg points out here, does anyone want to talk about the game? Yeah, I do. Bring me something. Give me something good here that has something to do with the game here. Chris says here that they can't stop our pass rush, meaning the Bengals. Flacco is going to throw 2 picks. Jalen Warren's going to run for 150 yards, and Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 5 touchdowns. Also, Henderson is hurt. Aaron's going to have all day to throw. Trey Hendrickson, they're excellent defensive end. I see this matchup as being pretty simple. I see it as the Steelers' offense has to be able to move the ball and put up points against that defense. I don't know which exactly is the worst defense, and I think you're not going to know that until a few more weeks pass in the NFL. But this one's got to be right up there, and that's actually with Hendrickson.
Yeah.
I mean, he was part of their horrendous defense last year. So
it's very, very true. I mean, listen, the early impressions are it's going to be really tough to stop Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Joe Flacco knows where to go. If he has any time to throw at all, he can pick them apart. He did in the Colts game last year. Remember, Joe Flacco ended up coming in for an injured Anthony Richardson. And this kind of just goes back full circle. Remember, Mike Tomlin a couple of weeks ago made that remark about, like, in that game, he's like, don't put Joe Flacco in the game. Don't injure Anthony Richardson and put Joe Flacco in the game. Well, that's what ended up happening, and Joe Flacco ended up kind of tearing them to shreds in a loss to Indianapolis. And so, Joe Flacco knows where to go. So, you're going to have to be really tight on your coverage. You're going to have to get after the quarterback. But the offense, I think this is one of those times where, like, okay, you went in and you went against a strong defense at home and you put up 23 points. You ran the ball pretty well. You moved the ball well through the air. You took your shots when they were there. This is going to be a game in which you're like, okay, this just might have to be your old school. We need to put up 25 plus, whatever it is. We got to put some points on the board. There's really not going to be any excuse here.
Tim says it seemed that Broderick Jones had a good game. A couple others are echoing this sentiment. I'm going to tell you, when I watched it live, I thought Brod was okay. When I watched it again, I didn't feel anywhere near strongly about that sentiment. Brod's still doing this thing, and I don't want to sound like some, dollar store Mike Bunchak here or whatever in analyzing offensive line play, but you can see that he's getting beaten. When he has one-on-ones, you can see that his feet are getting kind of jumpy on him, and he doesn't angle himself properly. This is not a lack of effort. This is not a lack of caring. I don't even know, Chris, that it's a lack of coaching. I really don't. I think that nobody's telling him to do that. If you think Pat Meyer's saying, hey, Brod, get super jittery with your feet, and when that guy comes this way, you go the other way. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. Now, Brod did get some help. Some of it, Lyle here is asking about that. It wasn't as much help, but it also came from a different side. One thing I did notice, this was more live, was that Isaac Seumalo was doing a lot of leaning in that direction. So they weren't keeping Darnell in, but Isaac was kind of leaning toward his left to make sure that 95 wasn't at least going to beat him to the inside or whoever happened to be over there. What'd you see of the line in general, Chris, but starting with Broad?
Starting with Broad, I do think he's made very, very, very small strides. And Justin put it a good way. 4 weeks ago, he wasn't even getting hands on guys. And so now I thought he had a couple of really, really strong reps against Myles Garrett in one-on-one situations. And
he's capable. I mean, we know that. Yeah.
At this rate, I will take even one really good rep in which he dominated. And I would say maybe dominated is too strong of a word, but really held his own against a really, really great pass rusher. There's still a lot of to put it in a Mike Tomlin way. There's still a lot of meat left on that bone. There's still a lot of there's still plenty of room to improve for Broad, but as a unit and using Darnell and using Spencer Anderson and whatever they're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers got sacked 0 times. He was relatively clean. I don't remember the exact number. Was it 3 quarterback hits? 3 quarterback hits against what I think is absolutely unequivocally a top 5 defensive front, maybe top 3 defensive front in the league. That's a win. Put that on the offensive line, put that on Arthur Smith, put that on Aaron Rodgers. I would say put it on all of the above. And the offensive line deserves its flowers for that. And I think Broderick Jones is part of that. Broad talked today, and he said he thought it was solid, but he said himself there's still plenty of room to grow, and I would agree with that.
Jason points out here, he says, I love the running back by committee approach, fresh bodies. I shared with everybody in my column on the DK Pittsburgh Sports app today's Caleb Johnson telling me that it was great to have all 3 guys involved. All 3 guys felt like they were needed, and really more so because they do have the Thursday game coming up in Cincinnati. The carries weren't even, but they weren't all that disparate either. I want to say Jalen had 11 or 12, and that's coming off an injury. Kenny Gainwell had 6, and I think Caleb had either 5 or 6. So they were right in that range for all of these guys, and with success to varying degrees, but they did have success. They ended up with 100 total yards as a team, most of that through the running backs. James says here, go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying, Gainwell and Johnson both had 6 carries apiece, while Warren had 11. But Gainwell also caught 6 passes too.
Yeah,
so
I thought Kenny had a nice game. Yeah, Kenny had another nice game there. James says, DK, I'm curious. You say that Tomlin's message is stale or has been stale. I have never said this. I have said many critical things about the head coach and would not take any of them back. That's not one of them. You'll hear that from people around you. But just to continue whatever you have here, if there are new players every year that have never heard the message, how is it stale? No. I'm sorry, James. Either you have me confused with somebody else or whatever. Tomlin's message to the players, his ability to push, to motivate the players, my goodness, that's the one thing I've never taken from him. And I don't know how you could. I mean, there's such overwhelming evidence. In the column that I wrote calling for his firing, I praised him for this part of it. He doesn't lose the team. The collapse that happened last year wasn't because the Steelers stopped giving a crap. It was they got trampled. They ran out of everything. So I'm not sure, James, where you might have picked that up from, but that wasn't me here. DJ here says Pat Freiermuth's snaps were low again. Is 21 the norm for Muth now? Well, it's 5 more than he got in Dublin, and he did get 1 catch for 11 yards. That was something. I don't know, Chris. I don't see.
It turned second long in the third and manageable, so that was a pretty important catch. Yeah,
but you're talking about what is he? $15 million a year tight end.
So I do think.
I mean, that's not on him. I'm saying that I don't know that there's a place for him in this offense, barring injury.
I think what I'm going to do, and I'm going to put it on our app probably tomorrow after I have a chance to talk with a couple more players about this. But I want to get into the tight end usage a little bit more because I'm starting to think that with how diverse of a room that they have with Darnell Washington and everything that he can do, and Jonnu Smith and what he can do, and Pat, I think there are going to be games in which where one guy kind of shines above the others, even though there could still, like yesterday, Darnell was obviously the main star of the group, but Connor Hayward had a great catch and great adjustment on the touchdown. Jonnu made a couple of nice catches, one of them to move the chains. There will be some times, but I could see Cincinnati, and not just because he's done it in the past, but I could see Cincinnati being a game in which Pat Freiermuth is not just utilized a lot, but kind of goes off. And it's mainly, I think it's matchup specific. I think that this is a time. Tomlin today called him a zone beater. Well, the Bengals like to operate in zone and like to operate in that Tampa and cover 2 and that kind of stuff. Well, we've seen Pat exploit that in the past. And if the Bengals are going to trot out the same defense that they have in the past, then we could see Pat go off again.
Again, against them, again, on that field.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's just going to, you look at the past 2 games, you're like, oh, Darnell's TE1 now. I don't think it's that simple. I think there are specific games in which they will lean on Darnell a whole lot. But then you're going to go up against teams like the Bengals who love to run out of nickel almost the entire time. Now, are you going to use Darnell to attack that? You could in some instances, but you could also use Pat, who's absolutely torn them to shreds in the past too.
Yeah, they need to put up points on this team. They really do. Matt Hyde says, I thought I saw a Roman Wilson sighting, or was I seeing things? Chris had much the same reaction to my left in the press box.
It was just funny. As soon as he caught it, I'm like, there's Roman Wilson. He caught a pass.
He was lined up wide on that too. He was.
Yeah, they ran shock to that side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was wide left over there. He got targeted. He made the play.
Got a little bit of yak. Got pretty good separate. I said a little bit. They got 2 yards. But he got he was running a quick little hitch there. Again, they're running shock on that side. He's the outside receiver, the number 1. So he's running a hitch, and he made a nice break, came back. Aaron put it on him. I thought it was good. Nice little rip there.
Kenny says that Matt Washington was fun to watch. That's almost always the case. I have more fun watching him blocking than I do receiving.
I have fun watching people try to tackle him.
It's the best. The crazy part is when he got going downfield, very first snap from scrimmage, and he gets that. It's different than Metcalf's. Metcalf's is, I'm going to run away from you, and I'm going to make you look so slow. Washington's is, come on, you don't really want to try to tackle this, do you? His is totally different, because you just look at that and you think, who's going to bring him down? You already saw one business decision getting made early in that sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and Darnell's just, I think Darnell's the one that messed up the turf, because he just created this earthquake that threw everything off. Hey, Aaron Rodgers said that the field was fine at the beginning. It wasn't at the end. I blame Darnell, not the grounds crew. Washington is showing a lot right now. Washington is looking like somebody who could be a TE1, depending on the way you'd want to use your tight ends. Now, Arthur loves to throw to tight ends. Arthur really loves the multiple looks that he gets. Boy, Jonnu Smith lining up all over the field again. Backfield again. That's the stuff that Arthur loves. And I think, I'm going to say it again, that's why I keep feeling like Pat is kind of like a fifth wheel with this operation. And no shot at him. I'm talking just about the team dynamic. There'd be no question going into Thursday's game in Cincinnati who all the lights would be on, and it would be on Pat. I can't say that now.
No, I'm looking it up right now. So after yesterday's game, the Steelers jumped from third in the league to first in the league in 13 personnel usage. So that it was not just using Spencer Anderson as the extra offensive lineman, but also having 2 other tight ends, actual tight ends on the field at the same time. But again, when you're going up against a Browns defense that really likes to operate out of base, that they have a strong defensive front, you're going to use, bigger personnel. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is going to change this week.
Chris, you have a sledgehammer handy over there? You just happen to have one lying around?
I don't think
Symbolically, let's grab one. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. Our friend Moose. We love you, Moose. We're glad you're here. But Moose says 2 touchdowns against the sorry Browns is concerning. They need to figure out how to put their foot on these weak teams' throats and apply the pressure. This formula won't work come the playoffs. Moose, there's a very good chance that if and when the Steelers make the playoffs, they won't run into a defense that's as good as the one they faced yesterday. Okay? I don't offer a lot of praise for the Browns in any capacity. That is one wonderful defense that they have. That's also a defense that was on its hind legs, so to speak. At the end of 6 straight games with no bye, the 5th game having been in London, and they're out on the field way too much because their offense is terrible. That's the sorry part, is the offense and the quarterbacking specifically.
Yeah.
How can't that be distinguished? The Steelers' offense had themselves one whale of a challenge yesterday, and they passed it with flying colors. They really did.
Yeah, I mean, okay, going into that game, the Browns are the top-ranked rush defense in the league at 75.6 yards a game.
Number 1 out of 32.
And they ran for 100. That one should be enough. I mean, they were giving up. Shoot, man, you get 23 points against that defense. You better. That's pretty good. You'll look at this thing flying in my face. You got the Ravens, in week 2, who put up a lot of points on them with Lamar Jackson. Well, the Steelers also don't have Lamar Jackson. The Steelers don't have that MVP level quarterback. They just don't. 23 points, man. You'll take it, especially when your defense, by the way. We talk about we talked yesterday on Live Shot about how much the Steelers how much the Browns defense played. The Steelers defense played 82 snaps yesterday.
Yeah.
Patrick Queen played 82 snaps. He's actually the only one who played 100% of those. The Steelers defense is one who played a lot. So that Browns defense didn't even play really that much. They played 58, 59. That's less than when Arthur Smith talked about wanting ideal plays, it's about 65. So they're even less than that. And they put up 23 points. They ran the ball well. And there's nothing to complain about when it comes to the offensive performance yesterday. Maybe outside of turning one of those other field goal drives into a touchdown. But yeah, no.
James just says that the Browns secondary isn't elite by any means. They do have some good players back there. I would agree that they aren't elite, but that's not how you do this. It's the defense as a whole. It's the defense as a whole. And the Browns obviously had some injuries.
Denzel Ward
back there too. Yeah,
4-time All-Pro.
They have players there. But this is the best point of all. It comes from Dannon, who says the Browns defense was tired after halftime. That's to the Steelers offense's credit. That's to Arthur Smith's credit. They never let up on the run. They never took the foot off the gas, and that gas being pound them. How many times did I say to you, Chris, in the press box, that's what they don't want? Whenever the Steelers would have a good hard run, 7, 8, 9 yards, I would say that's what they Cleveland don't want.
4 of 10 plus against the number 1 rush defense in the league, and people are upset about this somehow.
I think people just want to have.
They just look at the record.
They just want to relax. I think this is human nature. Yeah. I think you want to get to the 3rd and 4th quarter and say, this is a game where I was just supposed to have fun and laugh and go ha through the second half. No, man, it's the NFL and it's the AFC North. And in this case, it was maybe the best defense in the NFL. That's not our opinions. There are stats for this sort of thing.
After yesterday's performance, from week 3 through now, you can actually make a really good argument that the Steelers have the best defense in the NFL.
It's certainly getting there.
Really? I mean, I'm now that's taking out their two worst performances. So I'm adding that context, but I'm talking when we talk about the defense and their adjustments that had to be made and getting over the communication issues and all that kind of stuff. That is the actual fruit that's being bore from those early struggles, from those two first games, which they were not good at all. Weeks 3 through 6, they have been inarguably the most efficient defense over the last 4 games.
Well, I'll tell you what, I like this point down here that's on the screen here from Preston. Says that we muted the Browns rushing attack as well. You are the first person, Preston, I think, who has brought this up in any capacity, including all of our comments on the app and everywhere else here. I think you're the first to point this out. This was probably, I shouldn't say as important, but it was up there on the list of things that the Steelers really needed to get done in this game. They knew what Quinshon Judkins had been doing, and they knew that Judkins was no ordinary rookie coming out of Ohio State. He had that big game exposure and all that stuff, and each passing Sunday, he was piling up more and more yards. Well, all he ended up with in this game on 12 carries was with 36 yards. It's obviously a 3.0 average. His longest carry was 6. Now, our old friend Jerome Ford, who always torments the Steelers, when they're thinking everyone else is worried about Nick Chubb, and along comes Jerome Ford to run for 7,000 yards on you that day. Now, he ends up getting only 2 carries, but for 17 yards, which actually kind of made me laugh. But for the most part, if not for those 2 carries by Ford, the Steelers shut down the run for a second consecutive week. Nobody was talking about, oh, no, look at these guys getting gashed by the run. And I don't want to oversimplify this, and I don't want to take credit from Cam Hayward or anybody else on that line. But I'm not going to give the name here, but one player said to me yesterday how remarkable it's been that Derek Harmon has had this calming effect on the Steelers defense overall. Never mind that he's picking up one piece of significant splash every game, which is remarkable for a rookie unto itself. It's that nobody's doing that. Let's just blow right through the hole here thing on the Steelers anymore. There's a lot to be said for that, Chris, because the Browns had been running the ball well.
Yeah, they had been, and that's the way that they stayed in the game with Minnesota. I mean, they stayed in that game, and I would even say at times controlled that game. Was they played really strong defense, and then they ran the ball. Quinshon Judkins ran the ball very well, and the Steelers have cleaned up their play to stop the run, and it's a lot easier to make plays on defense when you put offenses in one-dimensional downs, whether it be second and long or third and long, whatever it is. That's when you can pin your ears or allow the defense to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. And shoot, man, I don't know, man. I'm running out of words on this one.
Yeah, Dave Black says, I do wish the Steelers defense would get a few of those gift opportunities. The one dropped interception in particular. That's why I'm reading it, because this was another theme from me and Chris in the press box.
At least 5.
I was counting them out loud, was I not?
Yeah.
Well, it just a coincidence. Deshaun Elliott asked me, how many did we drop out there? And I go, I don't know, 7, because I just wanted to play with him, right? And he goes, no. I go, no, it was 5. 5. And the Steelers ended up with, officially speaking, it was 8. They were credited with 8 passes defensed and no interceptions. That's rare air, especially when some of those, like the one Nick Herbig tipped up to himself.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of those in this game. Those are going to turn around on you. Turnovers are partially a luck thing, the way the football bounces off somebody's hand and so forth. Patrick Queen almost had the one right at the beginning. PQ's dying for a pick. You guys have no idea.
I think it's a pick. I'm wondering what his celebration.
He's going to run to the end zone by himself and slide on both knees like this in front of, and he could do it in Cincinnati where they'll throw beer bottles at him. Yes, Dave, they need to turn more of those into picks. But again, we've seen games where they didn't play well defensively, but all they did was create takeaways. That stuff will make a difference here. I like that. We're going to take a couple more today. This one's good, Chris. I already mentioned how much Harmon has helped the defense stop the run, but maybe a question within that I'm going to throw to you is, how has he done that? What is he doing down there in those trenches where it's tough to see on live TV or even in person?
Well, the first thing that he's doing is he's playing sound football, and sometimes that's all it takes. Again, Cam Hayward has put it one way a number of times. If all 11 guys do their job, we stop the other team the majority of the time. Now, every now and then, the offensive guys or the offense is just going to beat you. That's the nature of the game. It's the nature of American football. It's the nature of the NFL. There are a lot of very, very smart offensive minds, and there are going to be times in which you do everything right. And an offensive mind like Kevin Stefanski or Zach Taylor, or whenever they face other guys later on in the season, they're just going to beat you. But a lot of the time, if all 11 guys just do their job, and there's a great comment right there, clogging up the lanes. That's honestly what Derek Harmon's doing. He's winning blocks. And when he's asked to clog up space, he's clogging up space. He's allowing the linebackers to play clean. But then whenever there are plays in which they want the defensive line to be a little bit more aggressive and try to get after people, Derek Harmon's doing that too. He's becoming a bit of a handful. But then what that also does on top of that, there's the domino effect on that. That allows Cam Hayward to not have to play as often. I mean, I'll pull up his snap count, but Cam Hayward did not play a lot yesterday.
Good. That's how this is supposed to be happening. Yeah, that's great.
Cam Hayward played 52% of the snaps yesterday.
Good.
That's what when we're talking about strong rotation, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Cam Hayward staying fresh so that he can be on the field really, really fresh on those crucial downs. And when you have Derek Harmon, you have Daniel Akawale and Y.A. Black and all these other guys, Keanu Benton's been playing a lot better the past 2 games. When you have these guys who can step up and play very, very well, and you can have that rotation without having that drop off, that's exactly what you want, and that's what Derek Harmon is doing. He not only deepened the bench, but he also is providing quality play on top of that, which is you're starting to see the domino effect of that.
Yeah, there were there was a lot of rotation on the defensive side, more than usual, and that's good because, like you said, PQ's out there for 82 snaps, which means the defense was out there for 82 snaps. But when you look at the defensive line and you see Y.A. Black is out there for 16, Daniel Akawale was out there for 11. My new best friend, Isaiah Otomewo, I had a great talk with yesterday. I told Chris about it. Was out there for 10. Keanu Benton was out there for 49. These are all defensive linemen. I'll tell you something else that I liked. One of the areas that's always a big focus for rotation is outside linebacker. The leader in outside linebacker snaps was Nick Herbig with 50, one more than TJ Watt. And Alex Highsmith had 47. If you're into the grading at all, the top 3 Steelers graded, according to Chris's best friends at Pro Football Focus,
they're my favorite, were
Herbig, TJ, and not to be left out when it comes to run stopping ever is Highsmith.
Yeah.
And it feels like we do this all the time, this Highsmith cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, yeah, we love Highsmith. Highsmith is great. And then Highsmith gets hurt. He's always hurt. We hate him. Herbig needs to be the guy all the time. Highsmith comes back, shows you instantly how valuable he is and why he was missed. And it's like, all right, we're just going to rotate him. It's awesome. And then you just rinse and repeat. The same OLB cycle again and again and again. But he did have a nice game.
All 3 of them played great games. And this is actually one time where I will kind of agree with PFF that when we're talking about individual play, I mean, those 3 kind of deserve their flowers. And the fact that they rotated and played almost the same number of snaps each just kind of goes to show exactly what the Steelers are like. I think everybody thought that when Highsmith was going to come back, the answer was going to be put all 3 on the field at the same time. That happened, maybe once or twice? It did not happen very often. But it was mainly about this rotation, and you saw it because there were times in which TJ would make a big impact. There were obviously times in which Nick Herbig made a big impact, getting 2 sacks. There were times in which Alex Highsmith, maybe they weren't sacks, but they were really strong, great plays to defend the run to his side. That's what you want. And so that's when we're talking about the whole search for WR2. I keep seeing Alex Highsmith's name brought up. Why would you want to trade away from this? Why would you want, when you are going to be facing, if you get into the playoffs and you're going to be facing the Patrick Mahomeses of the world and the Josh Allens of the world and the Justin Herberts and whatever other star quarterbacks, you want to have as much firepower to go. We saw it in the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles dismantled Patrick Mahomes with a pass rush. That's all they did.
Yeah, they sure did.
They made Mahomes look actually human in a big game in which Mahomes has always played great. Why would you want to take away from that for the sake of getting a receiver when your offense is doing just fine? Could it get better? Absolutely, but you need to have the firepower to go against those guys.
One of the things that we try to avoid on this program is whatever the standard narrative is of the day. And I had a feeling yesterday that this thing with the field and the turf and whatever was going to be that today. Is like, it's not good enough to just talk about the football game, because we can't get mad about the football game because they won. We can get mad about the field. Something. So you got to be mad about something. So somebody's got to bring up the field. So I'm going to do this just to straighten some stuff out about the field. Michael Bobrick here says that field maintenance is a stadium authority responsible, not Steelers ownership. Both of those things are false. And in fact, the stadium authority no longer exists. The stadium authority was responsible for running Three Rivers Stadium. It existed for some bizarre, psychotic, bureaucratic reason for about 20 years after Three Rivers Stadium was demolished. True story. The Sports and Exhibition Authority owns the stadiums. It is the Steelers' responsibility to maintain the stadium. 100%. Just like it is the Pirates' responsibility to maintain PNC Park, also owned by the Sports and Exhibition Authority. Just like it is the Penguins' responsibility to maintain PPG Paints Arena, also owned by the Sports and Exhibition Authority. And because there were 4 of these things in that process, the David L. Lawrence Convention Center is maintained by the Convention Center people, also owned by the Sports and Exhibition Authority. Hence the name Sports and Exhibition Authority. The Steelers are responsible for their own field. That's why the moment Chris and I went outside to that rotunda to do that post-game video for you, they were already out there, not just tearing up the field, but Mr. Grounds Crew guy was, and you couldn't hear what he was saying from way up high, but you could tell it was something along the lines of, and I didn't get a harumph out of you back there.
Yeah, they weren't singing. We were whistling while we work and happy tunes and stuff like that. It was yeah. Really so quick, some actual news really quick, just to let people know. Injury report dropped. They didn't practice today, so it's an estimate, but Calvin Austin would not have practiced today officially, along with Miles Kilber, who's already ruled out. Everybody else who's on the injury report.
Yeah, Cal's not playing. No. Why would you do that on a Thursday when you have give him an additional 10 days to to get healthy? The offense showed that it can put up 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals against a good one here. Guys, you're trying way too hard here. Does the WPIL pay this? Pitt play that? The Steelers blew it. Okay, that's it. That's all there was to it.
There's no excuse for the field because Pitt was on the road. The WPIL games don't happen for another month plus.
We're trying way too hard to turn this into something or to get complicated with it. And I know where that stuff starts, and I also know that that's not what we do on this show. That's not to say we don't get. Well, I'll get negative on you all day. Go ahead.
I had a conversation with a player today. I'm not because it was off the record. I'm not going to say who it was, but I had a conversation with a player today, and they actually kind of surprised me. They're like, you know what? It really wasn't that bad.
It's just, that's what I heard too. Okay.
Yeah. So
there were parts in the middle of the field that got beat up over the course of the middle of the field. And the one thing that I guarantee you that the grounds crew hadn't counted on, because they have their usual intervals, is that for those of you who don't live here, it no longer rains in the city of Pittsburgh. I don't know why. I don't know whose idea this was. I do know that climate change, by and large, has been a great friend of ours. It's turned us into San Diego pretty much. It's just nice
without the
all
sunshine.
the time. Well, but we've had tons of sunshine. Everything has changed. And we get a lot more. Like yesterday was really cloudy, but for the Steelers, other games and everything else here, it's been like just super sunny. We complained about it in Latrobe every day. We complained about it on the South Side every day. We had to keep hiding from the sun. We're not used to that sort of thing here, but that's the way it's headed. Fine, great, but it doesn't rain. And if all of your patterns for when you replace the sod and when you do this stuff are based on precedent, well, your precedent is based on the regular rainfall pattern here. So, and no, it sure as hell doesn't snow here anymore.
We had a pretty decent winter last year. At least where I live. Maybe
downtown it doesn't snow. Yeah.
In the DKPS Westmoreland County branch, we definitely got I'd say a decent amount. It was a normal winter, I'd put it that way. It wasn't a bad winter. It wasn't a We got well
downtown. We're in a valley, so this is the last place that snow ever lays. Even when we do see it, the year before there was almost like no snow.
Yeah, no. I remember like the winter of 22 heading into 23. There was almost no snow, but there was the one like cold snap that came through the week of the Christmas Eve game against the Raiders. That was a brutally cold game. That was like 7 degrees with terrible like wind chill. It was a terrible game, but it was dry.
Colorado Ian says, "What? There are no sprinkler systems in Pittsburgh?" No, there are, of course, and they should have been used. I'm saying that's where the mistake was made. It's not in all this other weirdness and blame Pitt and blame the WPIL and blame the stadium authority that no longer exists. It's not any of that. It's certainly not river water not being good for grass. The Allegheny River is a pretty clean river. The Mon is as clean as it's ever been. But that's not where you would get that water from anyway. Those are aquifers. The only thing that those provide water to, as long as we're in an educating grind here today, is the Point State Park fountain. Listen, guys, the best way to avoid conversation like this is to go get the app. Pyro says, everyone go get the app. If you don't know what that means at this point, I'm not going to read through it all over again for you. Just email me, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. I didn't see Clayton come in with the $5 gift, so we're going to take his question real quick. It says, when are we scheming up the pass plays for the eligible receiver, Spencer Anderson? Throw to 74. They shout all across, not the land, the world, because there were upper decks. They were chanting for Spence to get the ball over in Dublin.
Yeah, it will not surprise me if by the end of the season, Spencer Anderson has one target.
One target. They love Spence, and there's no way to not love Spence.
Yeah, it could come on a random third down. It could come on a fourth down. It could be inside the 5 for a touchdown, or at least a touchdown target or end zone target, whatever. But I don't think it's going to happen often, and it won't surprise me if it doesn't happen at all. But it might be like the Jonnu Smith jet sweep. It just kind of comes out of nowhere when you're least expecting it. That would probably end up that would be my bet pretty much, is that it's just going to happen at a time. I don't think it's going to happen against the Bengals. I'll put it that way. I think it's going to be the Steelers are going to continue to use this for quite a while. The extra offensive linemen, they're just going to run the ball. And then when everybody starts to think, just like the Browns in the first play, they got the extra offensive linemen, we're going to bring everybody into the box. And then they put Darnell Washington running behind everybody. It's going to be one of those type of situations. That's what I think.
Carmack Carey gets the final word, says that Myles Garrett's tears will do just nicely to water the grass. We'll see everybody tomorrow.